Thanks for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a hump of the week, Wednesday morning, 31 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here. And it's that time to take a walk into the world of the papers. And take a look at the headlines making the rounds that have us talking. This is Freshly Pressed, interactive session as always. So we are looking for you or looking at you to share your thoughts with us, share your opinions with us, your messages on WhatsApp. You can do that on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And yes, my analysts are in this morning to take a look at the headlines and, of course, give their analysis as well. Devoe and Lakunle, good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you in.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning to all our listeners, and I hope we all survived the last 24 hours of blackness.
Good morning, Devoe.
Morning, world. Morning, Lagos. Anyway, Lakunle, a cool American demonstration of craze.
The Americans went to the poll and they voted their conscience. Free elections. That's the way it is. But I get you. Welcome along to the show. All right, so many stories to get into. And of course, as Lakunle said, I hope we survive the last 24 hours without power. A lot of people went to bed, in the dark. Some people said, they brought their light back at some around 2:30 this morning. But for a majority of us, it was blackness up until when we got up for work and all that. But anyways, let's begin our journey this morning in the Premium Times, Devo. This is coming to your table. It's an update to the End Bad Governance protesters that has been in the news in the last 48 hours, especially concerning the miners. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday received 119 protesters at the presidential villa in Abuja the day after ordering their release from detention and discontinuation of their trial for alleged treason, treasonable felony arson, and treasonable offenses. Now, the protesters, including 61 children, allegedly committed the offenses during August nationwide End Bad Governance protests, also known as the protest against hunger. So, Devo, this is where we are right now. After the AGF, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, spoke about this and said that he would review. And the president had also directed that this issue should be put to bed, more or less. Now, this has happened, and these minors, they've been taken to Abuja. They were clothed in Ashwebi colors and so on and so forth. The whole spectacle was made of the situation. But walk us through where we are right now on this.
Okay, I'm sure many people have been following the Nollywood movie called Nigeria, where minors, people below the age of 18, are jailed. And not only jailed, not fed, maltreated, more or less tortured, and then arraigned in court. I mean, it was a sad day and a tragic incident when about 76 people were brought into a high court in Abuja, of which 36 were minors. They came in two batches, and the IG was arraigning them on behalf of treason for destroying government properties during the End Bad Governance August protest. And then also, as they claimed, the treasonable offense was that they were carrying Russian flags demanding for a regime change. Well, with the outrage that has come out with that, I think the presidency, commendation to him for retracing his steps, because most times when our leaders make mistakes, they don't retrace their steps. But the Bola Ahmed Shetima administration did retrace their steps in this incident, because there are many others who would like them to do the same. But basically, they have tried to change the narrative by, first of all, the presidency has stepped into the court case, asking the courts to drop the charges with no recourse to anything that was laid against them. They've taken a second step by asking the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Resources to take up the welfare and health management of these kids, whilst the state governors were present in Abuja to receive, I think they were from Kano and Kaduna. Some senators have debated that they should also be compensated because the federal government, and I think Falana was also pushing for a compensation, that the federal government had stepped on the rights of these children. And I've always said it, child's rights, what, apart from these children, there's so many other children who the federal government, through inaction or actions, have stepped on the rights of the Nigerian kid in this country. Is it that there's no plan for them? There are about 100 million children in this country. We have the highest out of school children cases in the world. We're about 20 million. That 20 million figure is about 5 years old. We don't know the figure now. I mean, given the cost of living crisis, that parents and guardians cannot pay school fees, neither can they afford health, neither can they afford transport. What is the real state of out of school children in this country? So it just seems as if the Nigerian child has no hope. There is no plan for the government for them. And in most other climes that we like to compare ourselves with, children are usually covered. They usually have some sense of government support, at least by way of education and also by way of health, to ensure that they can live a decent life until they can fend for themselves.
Right.
Now, I would have to say this, even though the federal government is trying so hard to wipe away their misdeeds, the question here is, what lesson has been learned? Because what normally happens is that we find a way to quickly wash it away, we throw some money at it, and we believe it's gone. The police that defended infamously and dishonorably, saying that those children were adults, okay? Apart from the presidency saying that they need to deal with some people. The real issue here is, why are you all always against protest? Why are you always against dissent? If the police had protected the protesters during that protest, we would not be in this position. This administration has had, I don't think the only protest that the police did not come against was those who were for the presidency. So it seems as if anybody who disagrees with this administration is going to have the full wrath of our security forces against them. That was not why they were established. That is a real lesson here to be learned. The police and the security forces must learn to support citizens anytime they come out to air their mind and their views. People are not mad or crazy. I mean, we don't have to be behaving like the Americans and, demonstration of craze in appointing our leaders. We need to learn how to allow Nigerian citizens uphold their rights. At the end of the day, if you allowed citizens to speak their mind for one day or two, they would go back home. That's where it will end up. But we chose violence. We chose to spray tear gas on them. We chose to bring, what do you call them? Sponsored thugs and kids to cause vandalization. Now, as they
Are you there, Devoe? Okay, looks like Devoe has a little technical glitch or hitch there. Before we get him back on, luckily, I'm just wondering if you have a differing view to this, because just to add to this whole thing, while Vice President Shettima received these kids at Asovila yesterday, he also mentioned that during those protests in August, about 300 billion naira was lost in damage to businesses and so on and so forth. That being said, I mean, after all this has happened and things panned out the way they actually did, do you think that even though the way that these kids were, taken to, in prison, detained and treated was very wrong, do you think that there still should be a lesson learned going forward?
So, without sounding controversial on this matter, it is bad enough that we got to the stage where we had to be violent in our protests, whether for or against the government and all that. Like it is said everywhere in the
sorry, I'm
world,
back.
it is the right of every citizen to be able to air their opinion about government, so long as they are not violent.
Right.
And I mean, the moment that we have children involved, there are certain things that need to have been done that we did not do. We didn't do them. We have not taken juveniles to medium and maximum prisons. We have denied them proper nutrition. We have denied them many things. Yes, the public outcry to those wrong things are correct. Right. Now, here is my point. So, are we saying that because of those wrong things, that these kids or children, if it is true that they actually participated in destroying public property, but because they have now been maltreated, it is good for them to go home and sin no more? Is there a law to punish children when they misbehave in the Nigerian law? Is it applicable in this instance? Can we look at it from the
Yes, there are
perspective
even
of,
laws.
if these guys, these children of this one, go home free, does it tell the next set of children something? What does it tell them? That they will can also do the same thing and they will be received by the president and the governor of their respective states. So while we are looking at what's been wrong, we also should be looking at what should be the correction. What are the lessons learned? The vice president says
Sorry,
300
can I
billion worth of
say
property
something?
were destroyed. If that is also true, let's assume, let me be generous in my estimation, 10% of that 300 billion was insured. Who is paying for the remaining 270 billion? So these are the facts of these things that we need to examine. It is not enough to just say go home and sin no more. What are we doing to prevent these things from happening? Are we saying we will replace this money, we will punish the police, we will apply some sanction on these students
Hold on,
themselves
Devoe. Hold
or
on,
on their
Devoe.
parents or something, so that it is seen? This thing is, we are looking for justice, right? And you cannot have justice if you are not, if there is no equity in it. So the children have gone home now. The people whose property they destroyed, what is their own recourse? What is their recourse to justice? And
Right.
so on and so on. So we can go on and argue this thing back and forth, yes. But my point, my view to it is that it is not just enough to say go home and sin no more. I mean,
Right. Okay, Devoe, real quick.
Yes, sorry, I think my line went off, right?
Yes, it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, real quick.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Devoe.
Okay,
Can you?
just input, right? In as much as yes, I can hear you. In as much as they should address juvenile criminality, Lakunle, the point is the crime that was committed in terms of vandalization. Some people sponsor these things. We always miss the point anytime we're trying to address problems. We try and politicize it. Some people sponsored it, um, just like we have banditry, Boko Haram. We never get to the root of those behind all this crime and violation in this country. That's what I want to be hearing the government speak to. What is the work only to harass citizens when they come to protest? Is the work of the NIA and the military only to stop Nigerian citizens from protesting? There's a reason why these people exist. That is the root of this problem.
All right, Devoe. Let's take a quick breather right here. When we come back in, we'll take more of the stories and, of course, your messages are lining up already on WhatsApp. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. We'll be back in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
Sorry, how far did I talk before the line went off?
you don't talk for 15 minutes.
No, I don't believe.
Yes, now.
No, but
This is 746.
you had gone far. No, you had gone reasonably far already before
Okay.
your internet decided. Someone said, I hope it's not police that cut off the cut off the votes.
Demons. Demons, they don't want to hear true. They want to die this case. They want to die it. But you didn't talk about the tax issue.
What's tax?
Maybe another day. Okay, I think it's there actually.
Tax reforms.
I think it's there. Yeah, I think it's there. Sorry, I think it's there.
Welcome back into Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. 46 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi here alongside me are Devoe and Lakunle. We're taking a look at the papers, the headlines making the rounds on Freshly Pressed. Join us and send your messages into us on WhatsApp on 0809 4440981. YouTube. You can find us streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, Lakunle, let's get back into the conversation this morning and talk about something equally as important. Now, it has to do with the world of business actually, and it's coming out of the Guardian. Now, the federal government, through the National Automotive Design and Development Council, that's the NADDC, has pledged to reverse over $1 billion yearly loss to imported vehicle components. Now, that is a very large number. Now, NADDC Director General Joseph Oshanipe stated this on Monday during the Midas NFX Software Automotive Design Skills Bootcamp held in Abuja. I mean, losing, $1 billion every year to imported automotive components. That's leaving a lot of money on the table.
I grew up in this country knowing that I could go to Bauchi and order or buy spare cars or parts. I knew I could go to Ibadan and buy Leyland Motors parts or trucks. I knew that there was an advert on radio that used to say one full tank Lagos to Kano, Peugeot 504. Lagos Badagry Expressway had one bus stop today called Volkswagen bus stop. There was a Volkswagen motor plant in that place.
Right.
And within the twinkle of an eye, in a 2-3 year period, all of these automobile organizations went into oblivion. And sometime around 1986, 87, thereabouts, that was the first time you hear somebody say, I am importing a fairly used car from Europe. Then it was Belgium. Belgium was the place. You hear them call Belgium, and then the name Tokumbo became popular. And we've never gone back. You see, everything that happens to us in Nigeria, my belief is that it may happen is a mistake, right? But we will perpetrate that mistake that it becomes normal. And that is where we are today. Let me use a certain brand of car. I'm not sure if I'm permitted to mention the name. 10 years ago was 4.7 million naira. Sedan, 2-liter engine, can ride from here to Abuja on one full tank. Today, that same car is about 35 million naira. The moment we start, just the same thing that happens to everything else around us, it's the same thing that's happened also in the automotive industry. Just a few years ago, Volkswagen were going to start to come back to Nigeria to establish a plant. Why did they pull out? They wrote a report that one, the law, the act to establish the Nigerian automotive industry was not signed by Mr. President, the sitting president. And two, that the quality of fuel, imagine the quality of fuel that comes to Nigeria most often will crash the engines of the cars they want to produce here. The report is somewhere out there. Let us find it and read that report, and let us see how damning it is. A governor can come and say, for the public good, for overriding public interest, that place where you have your factory, I'm turning it to a motor park. Instability of rules, of laws, of acts, pandering to one person's ego, all these things combined to make all of these things that this man has said is possible here doubtful. So even when this is done, what is the guarantee that people who want to come and invest will have the confidence to come and do it?
Right.
So it is that thing that we need to deal with first. There are more than enough policies and laws on the shelf. It is us, the people, the way we react to these things, the way we handle them. Look at Ogun State. We have to refer to it again. A Chinese company went over the world, started seizing Nigerian properties because a governor canceled the contract that had been signed by a previous governor. So those are the things in my mind that tells me that these things are just tall ambitions, ambitions that are not backed with good intentions. And we need to look at it. $1 billion is a lot of money if we are able to save that. Imagine that Peugeot is still here. Imagine that Volkswagen is still here. Imagine that Steyr is still here. One tractor, Massey Ferguson, is about 453 million naira to buy one. But imagine that Steyr was still here making those tractors that they were making in the 70s and the 80s. Even yes, they were assembling it.
It would be a different story.
It would be a different story. But here we are today.
It's rather unfortunate. Let me take a couple of messages before we take our next story here. Barrister Danukuda says the minor should be compensated for the unlawful incarceration, while the police hierarchy that was involved in this scandal should be punished. All right. Joseph Meyer says it's laughable how the government is trying to save face from the global disgrace. The AGF, judiciary, and security agencies caused Nigeria holding children in captivity for 93 days under the allegations of treason. The vice president utterances even compound the propaganda saying the government lost over 300 billion naira during the protests. Nigeria's matter tire me. Please with okay, happy birthday to you, Joseph Meyer.
He didn't say the government 300 billion. He said a total of 300 billion.
You're saying the government lost.
Okay. It's not just
not
government.
Properties,
property, private,
yes,
public, all of it put together.
So happy birthday to you, Joseph Meyer. Thank you for always keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Z-Man from Bristol says in Nigeria, they arrest children. The arrest children are not exempt at a whim who they think is against them, accuse them of treason, and when there's an outcry, the royal president orders the release of said accused without any recourse to the legal process. Isn't your country wonderful? All right, let's get back into the stories, Devoe, and I'm going to bring you in on this one, Lakunle, because it's a very, very important one. Heading into the Premium Times, now, Olufemi Oluyede, who was appointed as acting chief of army staff by President Bola Tinubu last week, has been decorated with the new rank of lieutenant general, an indication that he's set to be made substantive army chief. Now, Mr. Oluyede, formerly a major general, was decorated with a new rank at the presidential villa in Abuja. Devoe, it doesn't look as if Mr. Tariq Lagbaja is going to be coming back anytime soon, looking at this move that has been made by the presidency.
Well, once again, they are controlling the narrative, and I think they should just let the cat out of the bag. This government, would I even call it the APC? I remember, if you remember, AY, in the last administration, they were telling the media not to report, security issues anytime it happens, that they should wait for the government to tell them what to say. We're still on that, trying to control what is out there and what people already know. I mean, there was a time that what they have now termed as fake news messages went out about the passing of the current substantive chief of army staff, Lieutenant General Lagbaja, which the army came out and debunked and said it was not true, that he was away. I mean, they debunked it almost 3 times, that he was away on leave, on medical leave, and that he'll be back, and that there was no acting chief of army staff. A little while after, the presidency appointed what's his name as the acting chief of army staff. And even though we also heard from other sources that 15 generals were retired, now we're hearing officially that the acting chief of army staff has been promoted to lieutenant general. Now, usually you don't have 2 or 3 of them. And that also almost confirms and sends the strongest signal that the substantive chief of army staff, Lagbaja, may or may not be coming back. Now, the problem is not so much about his state of affairs, because as long as they have someone acting, there's a form of leadership, okay? There's no gap. However, why do they have to manage news in the way they do? Why can't they be upfront with Nigerians, okay? We are also entitled to know where our executives, just like when the president goes for his medical trips, they always end up with he's gone for a course, he's gone for a short vacation. But we all know he goes for medical treatment in France, just like the last president was always going to France and the UK. I mean, we just have to stop misleading Nigerian people and ensure that because it's when you come out with the facts, we, the Nigerian people, can work with you. And I think the military should be a bit more for because the truth is, we don't even have time to discuss the politics of having to go so far low just to look for a replacement. And everybody that was trained and was in the line of promotion had to leave. That's a different long topic. But the point is, this government needs to start becoming forthright with Nigerians. Practically all our problems are because we're dealing with wrong facts. We're not dealing with the truth. You give us bogey figures as regards our GDP, bogey figures as regards our inflation. They tell you it's 32%, but you can tell when you go to the markets that things are almost 300, 400 times percent the price that they were. They tell you that your employment rate is 4% when we know they have tricked with the formula, knowing that our employment rate was almost nearing 50. So I need this government to start telling Nigerians the truth. Even our reserves, they tell us it's now hitting 38 billion. But if you check it, that is in principle, not the nominal actual reserves. We can't just continue working on lies and impressions. This government needs to learn to stick with what is true so that Nigerian people can find how we can resolve these our problems.
All right, Devoe. Luckily, I'm going to bring you in on this one because it is quite a big issue. And of course, talking about the military, the hierarchy and all that. I mean, do we have an acting chief of staff? Is that how it works when it comes to the military?
Well, I don't have any military background. None of the members of my immediate family is one. I have friends who are in the military who are high-ranking officers today. I'm not aware to the extent of my knowledge of how the military works, that you have an acting chief. A chief is a chief. You are either the chief or you are not the chief. So we have an acting chief and a chief. So if the acting chief gives an order and it gets to the chief where he is, does he then counter that order if he's not happy with that order? That is something that we should think about.
Okay.
And again, my thoughts, the substantive chief is indisposed, whatever that means, is away, whatever that means. I wish him well. I wish him long life, prosperity, good time to enjoy he's enjoyed a very good career. Hopefully we enjoy his retirement as well. The first things when you want to join the military, either as a soldier or as an officer, through whatever means, the first underlying qualification is fitness. They tell you minimum height, minimum visibility of distance. You must have not suffered any brain loss before. They read you all of those things, fitness. So if you're not fit, you're not fit to be in the military. So while you're in the military and you are not fit, you are asked to leave because your unfitness can affect your ability to perform on the job.
Right.
So if it is that the chief is not fit, simple, just apply your laws. We have brought politics into our military, and that is what we are seeing. Simple.
That's where we are right now. All right, let's take messages as we round up the conversation. Michael says the fact that the police don't know the difference between minors and adults speaks volumes about their training. Our very own innocent is not having it easy here in his own backyard. Should he not be supported to even go global? Please, Nigeria is not ready to improve lives of its citizens. Fabian from West says a few days ago in Valencia, Spain, citizens protested against the poor emergency measures during the rainfall. They were allowed to give ventilation to their anger and later calm down to listen to the King and Queen of Spain. Our leaders and security forces should learn from this. Those who locked up those kids should be made to face the law. Wendy says, not a good tangent on the kids, Lakunle, and I think we should focus more on who actually sponsored them.
Agreed.
Okay, also talking. So let me squeeze one or two more. Tony from Marine Beach says, I thought you were going to say a Nollywood movie where kids want to topple the government. That would indeed have been a blockbuster for me. It's a shame how people have become so warped and depraved that they don't care about human lives anymore. How can someone, come out on the air to tell the whole world that these or those were all adults when all eyes could actually clearly see the reality of things? Where have we sold our minds and our conscience? Equal. Idimapuza says, hope Mr. President's government is not trying to break the Guinness World Record in national power grid collapsing. A record 10 times in a year for refineries not working for many years has already been a record amongst OPEC nations. May God help Nigeria. That's Idimapuza from Surulere.
That's another of the failures that we talk about. The first one might have been a mistake.
Right.
But some people will perpetrate themselves because they can see a way to milk the system. That's why you see it regular now.
Eddie Murphy says, congratulations, Devoe. Your salient points and constructive criticism of the ills happening in today's Nigerian society has earned you my wallpaper space for the rest of the year. Kindly trace my contact and send your pics for this purpose. Oh my goodness. And Ajayi Oloyinua says, the tragedy of this country is that not a single one of the myriads of problems plaguing the country has been solved over the years, whether it's the Boko Haram issue, bandits, kidnappers, killer herdsmen, grounded refineries, and now weekly national power grid collapse. It's unimaginable that government officials are being paid for doing absolutely nothing. And on that note, we need to call it a morning. Thank you all for sending your messages. In apologies if I couldn't get to yours. And time has absolutely flown by. Thank you so much, Devoe and Lakunle, for joining me on Wednesday as usual.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. Devoe, this is your jungle travel.
Devoe, thank you for joining in. All right, looks like Devoe's network at the last minute decided to jump in. And once again, thank you all for being a part of Smooth 98.1 and Freshly Pressed. Keep it tuned. We'll get into sports and the locker room at 8:15. Don't go anywhere.
Press on Smooth 98. Oh.